Welcome to Harvard House, your Money Morsel, where we use the power of social media and video to keep you up to date with what's happening on the markets and your money. Good morning and welcome back. Today I'm sitting with Willie Pelser, Chief Economist and Director of Harvard House. Morning, Willie. Welcome.
Morning. Thank you.
Last week we sat with Michael and chatted a little bit about what happened in markets in January, and the nub of it was that US interest rates are rising. So, Willie, maybe you can tell us a little bit about South African interest rates. We've had 2 increases from the Governor of the Reserve Bank. Can you tell us what's driving inflation in South Africa and what's driving interest rates up here, please?
Yeah, thank you, Robin. The world went into lockdown, and then a lot of things changed in the sense shortages of stuff, if I could, just in general, everything in shortage, and that led to an increase in price because people were prepared to pay up for whatever it was, microchips, coffee cups, you name it, everything in shortage. So in principle, we moved into a period where inflation was rising, and rising substantially and rising very quickly. And what we've seen in the US specifically is inflation rate is at a 40-year high. But back to South Africa, I think we have to applaud years of planning and actually insisting that the price level in South Africa should be contained. The Reserve Bank many years ago introduced a target range of 6 to 3%, or to keep inflation between those two levels, of upper level of 6 and bottom of sort of 3%. So what we've seen over many years was this price stability, and I've got a little graph on there for those who can see. The red line is South African inflation rate, and if you look at the last end of the graph on the right hand side, the overall inflation has been rising towards the 6% level. Now, back to the stability that the Reserve Bank need to have in place, they've acted on this by increasing twice already, end of last year and now in January. So what is driving inflation in South Africa is a combination of factors. What I'll focus on here is energy. There's a green line, the impact of petrol. And energy is just summarized into petrol specifically because that's what you and I actually feel, is when we go to the pump next month, up 70 cents or whatever the price is, but it's substantially more than what we've been used to. So that is one critical factor driving local inflation in South Africa. There are food and there are other things, but I think the graph highlights this. What's actually very interesting is if we take the energy component out of overall inflation, then it gets back to that sort of middle line, very low line. Then inflation in South Africa is actually at 3.8% if we take the energy out. So what I'm trying to illustrate with this is more the stability in inflation. Yes, the concern is that there's a price build-up, there's still shortages. We also import inflation in products that we import from the US, the rest of the world, and that comes at a higher inflation as well. So, so that's what's driving inflation at the moment.
So, Willie, how far do you think interest rates are going to go? I mean, are we going back to rates that we saw in the late 80s, early 90s, or do we think that this is just going to move through? What do you think this interest rate cycle is going to look like?
I think in this cycle we've already started. If we go back sort of 6 or 9 months, the market was thinking, and there's a mechanism in the money market that we can analyze and see what the expectation is. The expectation was for South African interest rates to rise by more than 1%. Some were indicating like 2%. So what we see at the moment, because of the stability that the Reserve Bank has implemented and the actions that they have already done, that interest rates from here could rise by another 100 to 150 basis points. And purely because of the scenario that there's more inflation coming. The economy is struggling. So I think what the Reserve Bank will act on is just the price momentum. There is a theory to say that we also need to enhance growth, so keep interest rates low. So I think that is taken into account. If we look at what energy inflation has done, the Reserve Bank probably could have gone and said, we hike at levels of 50 basis points rather than at 25. So I think that also sends a message that from the Reserve Bank and committee that we're just going to focus on the price level, and that will enhance potential growth as well.
Awesome. Willie, thank you so much for giving us some time out of your day. I know that you watch these things like a hawk, so I'm sure we'll have you back in again for an update a little later in the year. Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell so that you know when we release a new video, and share with all your friends. Thank you for tuning in.